Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Before we begin, I want to apologize for the huge gap in production time between Life and Another Time Vampire known as Old School RuneScape. I forgot I had this series going, but it is forgotten no more and the last few videos will be out in a short time. So today we talk about the middle game. So to start off, let's talk about what is the middle game. Well, it turns out the line between the opening and the middle game can be hard to draw clearly, but generally when the players begin playing in each other's already established spheres of influence and closer to already placed stones, you can say the game is left the opening. So the middle game is characterized by struggles or fights to make and defend points. It's generally the longest and largest part of the game and is commonly held to be the most impactful component to an amateur skill. The middle game is also the most tactical. While large parts of the opening and end game follow common repeating patterns, the middle game requires good situational analysis and good reading and creativity to react to unique situations. So the video concerning the middle game has been divided into two parts. In this video, I want to talk about group strength. Relative strengths of groups really drive the middle game. Having to take care of weak groups for tens of turns just let your opponent bully you into bad situations. On the other hand, if all your groups are strong but your opponent has a liability, then you can try to create an advantageous situation for yourself. Weak groups, 9 out of 10 times, are the focus of the game. To put it another way, don't go fishing while your house is on fire. If your groups are looking like they're in trouble, take care of those first. Also, if your opponent's house is on fire, add fuel. Deal with the fires, they're important. And hopefully at the end of the game, you'll have more non-burnt houses than your opponent. Okay, so group strength can be largely measured by two factors, whether it can make eyes and whether it can run away into the center. So as a general rule of thumb, groups are safe when they can either make two eyes or are able to make one and have access to an open space towards the center. In contrast, a group can be easily harassed if it's unable to make two eyes or is in danger of being stranded behind enemy lines. So let's take a look at some relatively contrived examples of groups and assess their strength. So here we are, and we're going to start in the top left in quadrant A. And so the white 2-space jump here isn't in mortal danger because it has both one eye in the 4 spaces below it and is able to access the center. However, it should be emphasized that it only has one eye, and here black can easily with just one move start to enclose white. And if black plays a move like this, immediately the group looks to be in a lot more trouble. So if white decides that defending here is the biggest move, it might be a good idea to play something like this jump, for example, and keep access into the center. And now you can see that black can't really enclose the entire group with just one move. Okay, moving on to the next example. Oh, I have these up from previous run at this, where I had some recording difficulties. Okay, so in this example, there we go. In this example here, this white group, has a fully formed eye and has mi for a second eye between E and F. Thus, even though it is in danger of being enclosed, the group can be considered safe and left alone if there are bigger moves on the board. It should be noted, however, that letting your group be fully enclosed usually isn't that great of an idea for a couple of reasons. So in this specific situation, first of all, if black were to completely enclose this group, first of all, black could try to poke out an eye in Sente and force a response from white. And the reason, actually, I don't even think this is an eye for white. But anyways, the reason this sucks is because, first of all, black gets a free move in Sente, which can be used during a co-fight, for example. Or it could, just be played during the end game to pick up a couple extra points. Second of all, now that it's enclosed, this white group exerts no influence on the rest of the board. It's just, it's there, sure, and white has 2 points, but that's all white's getting is 2 points. In comparison, black's wall here that black got in exchange for white's 2 points, while it doesn't directly make points, can be used in the future to maybe wall in a larger area on the right side. It might be used to attack things. It might be used to, invade somewhere and run away. And it's just really a lot more useful than 2 points. Okay, group C now in the bottom left. This white group is in trouble. It only has one potential eye here, and it's firmly entrenched behind enemy lines. Frankly, I don't think white should be able to escape here. And even if white manages to escape and somehow make, an extra point or two, black is definitely gonna get compensation, probably in the form of a fat wall that can be used to do a lot more useful things than, just a couple of points that white made in exchange for that big wall. This might be described as a too late kind of situation. Really, if white wanted to play here, white should have defended earlier. And so this is just not looking good for white. This is not a locally good situation. Lastly, on the bottom right, this is an example I put in to really kind of highlight the difference between safe and non-safe groups. So unlike the other three, this white group is completely fine. And you can see that it's in no danger of dying or really being surrounded. First of all, it has all this wonderful eye space in the corner. And even if black, got a million free moves and kind of gouges out this entire section, well, white can still, run out in the center and has plenty of potential to make a second eye relatively easily. Cool. So now that we can assess relative strengths of groups and have some practice with that, let's talk about what to do when we've identified a weak group and it belongs to us, so we want to protect it. So groups can be defended by remedying the two criteria for group strength, so eye potential and center axis. So in this first example on the bottom, how might black defend their 2-space jump? Well, one way they might defend it is playing another jump to the right, so this move. And now instead of just 4 spaces, black has 10 spaces to make eyes, and this is going to be a lot easier. It's a lot more flexible and a lot more able to just safely exist without being under the constant danger of losing eyes and dying or being harassed in oblivion. Now, while this is a good and common choice a lot of the times, sometimes it might not be practical. Here in the upper right, we see the white 2-space jump does not have the capability to create more space in its immediate local area. It can't jump down, it can't jump up because it's surrounded. And here, the only way for white to escape to safety is by jumping out. Now, these are kind of, separated, clear-cut demonstration examples with a correct answer. But in more ambiguous situations, you might have to choose between making life with existing space or small extensions, something like the bottom but cramped, or looking for a way to get out and run out in the center. Now, generally speaking, though the choice can be difficult, generally speaking, you want to run out. That's almost always better than living really small and completely enclosed. And again, going back to that first board on the upper right, here white lives. Congrats. And white gets 2 points, and black is going to get way more than that with what black got in exchange for 2 points of life. And this is why, center axis is important. Getting out is important, not just, from a group safety aspect, but from a kind of a tactical strategic aspect. If your groups are all enclosed and don't do anything to the rest of the board, odds are you're going to lose, because it just means your stones aren't effectively affecting the rest of the board. Okay, so now we have sort of an idea of how we might defend our groups that are weak. But what are we defending against? What do attacks look like? If our opponent has this stupid looking tiny weak group, how do we harass that? How do we do something with that? Well, attacking, like defending, also can be described talking about the two criteria for group strength. And so in the case of attacking, we can take away eye space or limit access to the center. So for the first, we can poke out eye space. In a super direct move, this might be as obvious as preventing a full diamond shape. And so, if black has this, white can say, hey, I'm not going to let you make that eye. But you're probably not going to see this kind of play in a real life game. More commonly, this means restricting a group's ability to extend down the side of the board. So if we remember that last board where we were defending here, white might want to try to play something like this and make room for themselves to more easily make two eyes on the bottom side of the board. Well, turns out where the opponent wants to play a move oftentimes is a good move for you. And so a good move for black here might be to play something like this. And now you can see, the difference. Suddenly, white is really looking like they're going to struggle to make two eyes down here. With one more move, it's the two space jump is undercut, so black can like creep in, kind of attach, do things. And if black gets like another move to surround and start to do things like this, the group's looking like it's in trouble. So that's one thing we can do is take away eye space, prevent white from easily being able to make two eyes. Secondly, we can enclose and cut off escape into the center. So some common moves that attack this way include various caps and shoulder hits. So here's might be something like this. This is a cap, this is a shoulder move, or a knight's move cap. A shoulder hit like this might be a good idea depending on the result you want. And these are all options that can be explored. Now, to effectively attack a group, it should generally first be destabilized by restricting its space before playing to restrict center access. This is because a cap group like this can be safe. Even if it's completely surrounded like this on top, that's fine. White can, still try to do something, and it looks like you'll be able to live somehow on the bottom. Compare this to, even if these moves aren't there and black has this move in. So black played this base taking away base stealing move, white plays elsewhere, let's say black caps. Now white kind of has to respond. White needs to get out in the center, because if white doesn't, I don't even know what's the best move here, like something like this maybe, all of these moves. And now white can't get out in the center that easily, at least, and white definitely can't really make two eyes down here on the bottom either. And so this group is starting to look like it's in trouble. So again, lots of different options here, and choosing between them can be difficult. There are lots of nuances, and there are entire books detailing variations on variations of, just a couple of these moves. At the beginner level, however, just knowing some standard options ought to put you in the right direction. So you say, okay, this white group doesn't have a base, so I want to attack it. I prevent it from going out in the center. How can I do that? Well, you might say, I'm going to try the cap this time. Maybe I'll try it from this side. Maybe I'll try the shoulder hit. Maybe I'll try this shoulder hit or this one. And by playing these moves and reviewing the results and looking through variations with a more advanced player or teacher is probably the best way to internalize these patterns and kind of the differences between when you want to use each one. Okay, so that was kind of all. As a final closing thought, most all of this video applies to isolated groups. And so if all your stones on the board are well connected, so you have one kind of super mega group on the board, your opponent's not really going to be able to harass and kill anything. And indeed, the first lessons I learned playing Go was that I played too scattered. And so oftentimes my matches, and this was my focus for like my first, 10-15 games I played when I first got a board, was that I should try to keep my stones connected and prevent my opponent's stones from being connected. And so all the way from my first games to even now as a low single digit queue, often the game results can be predicted by seeing who has more groups on the board, and generally they'll lose. So keep your group safe, and with any luck, they will lead you to victory. All right, so next time we'll be discussing some things to do when groups are relatively stable. So we'll be looking at some invasions and reductions and some ideas on how you might want to approach those topics. Cool. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and Stonefly out.